Welcome everyone to another episode of Kiwi Talks. My guest today is a concept artist, an illustrator, and designer. He is probably best known for his amazing concept art on Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze. I'd like to welcome Jay Epperson. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking time out. The first thing I want to know is your background is in illustration. You became a texture artist at EA and then a concept artist at Retro. So how does that arc even happen?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I went to school for illustration kind of just on default because I, spent my life drawing. I've always been passionate. It's the usual artist story there. And not really knowing how to funnel that passion into a career, but I was like, well, illustration, that sounds cool. What is that, comic books or whatever? I didn't even know, right? And I got to school, art school, first year I'm introduced to new people and friends, and at the time, that school was really kind of developing its name in the computer animation world. And I had a lot of friends in that major who were starting to introduce me to entertainment art, broadly speaking, right? And I was hooked. Like immediately I was like, oh, okay, I can... concept art for games was becoming more ubiquitous. Obviously film had already had previs and all the rest of that. But it's kind of like, if you were a studio of size, you already were making like a permanent position for someone doing concept art. So that quickly became a passion of mine. I was like, okay, I want to know more about this. I want to learn how to digitally paint. I want to pursue games, which I'd always played. The illustration program that I went through was very traditional, though. It was drawing, painting, oils. They weren't set up to like nurture that. So I kind of had to lean on friends, again, in the computer animation department to kind of like see what was good to do, what were skills I needed to develop. And they sort of started nurturing me and telling me like, okay, maybe learn how to unwrap UVs and do some textures and do this stuff. And so I had that in my portfolio as I was starting to submit to game studios. And it just so happens that EA was on a hiring spree that year, and they're like, okay, come on, you have low experience in this, but you're good. So I came into EA Tiburon in Orlando as a texture artist for a Superman game. And kind of jumping in the deep end there, right? Again, drawing and painting, not a proficient digital artist, but not, using a lot of 3D software. Sort of a sink or swim moment, but it worked out and I enjoyed it, all the while kind of having an eye towards what I really wanted to do, which was concept art. I wanted to do the design work. I wanted to kind of pull on my strengths and passions more. And at the time, EA had a centralized concept team that would sort of handle all the projects in that studio. And I quickly kind of befriended them and said, hey, can I get in here, nurture me up? And so when the Superman project wrapped, which was not a good game, spoilers, I was able to kind of just slide into there and then like finally land where I kind of always wanted to. Fast forward a few years, obviously doing all kinds of stuff there, and I'm looking for similar positions elsewhere, and I end up at Retro. So,
what's the interview process like? Do you have to do you have to draw in front of them? How does it actually work? I suppose the same for any of these companies.
So, like for making the transition from texture artist to
Well, yeah, because like they wanted a concept artist, right?
For retro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I submitted portfolios and interviewed. I mean, I had a strong. At that point, I'd been doing concept art for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something on a variety of projects. So I had design work, I had sketches and finished pieces. They didn't require me to do like a test piece or anything like that. I know that happens sometimes.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that process, but thankfully I didn't have to do that.
Well, I'm wondering if that will become more of a prominent thing with companies going forward because of AI and stuff. You know, you'll have to prove that you can.
Prove you can draw?
Yeah, and you're not just winging it.
I mean, would that be best case scenario rather than like prove you can prompt or whatever? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I hope so, kind of, except for like it's a bit of a stupid process because it's like you're asking someone, especially if they have a lot of experience, to like prove themselves for free for nothing on a promise and a hope and a whim, right? Like it's
true.
It's people's time, so you know there's a weird fine line there of like what to expect as an employer and what you should be realistically willing to give as a creative or an applicant.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Time is money, and it is very, very valuable. So I totally understand. I mean, to be perfectly honest, from what I've seen of your website and all your concept art, you were like the perfect person to do concept art for Donkey Kong anyway. Just looking at it, because I've looked at your website and I'm like, oh my gosh, this totally makes sense. Whoever hired you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you think so. I don't even know if I was their first pick, honestly. I kind of forget the hiring process at that point, but it was a few interviews, a few coming out to Texas before it landed. But yeah, it was excellent.
Because you came in towards the end of Returns, didn't you?
Yes. So I had left EA already at that point. I was actually working with Supergiant Games.
Nice.
That's like one of the bigger branches in my timeline. This was before they were Supergiant. We were all working on Bastion, figuring out what it was. And then I got the offer from Retro. So it was like, oh, which way do I go?
Yeah, tough call.
Tough call. And obviously they've done awesome stuff since. I came in DKCR, it was more than halfway. I mean, we're 70, 80%, right? Like, so I was really coming in kind of obviously at the tail end, but like trying to balance, you know, getting caught up and being useful and carrying the torch of someone else's work. You know, at the time, I don't know these days, but Retro was a like one concept artist studio, right? They were only a certain size. And so the guy before me, Sammy, I think.
Sammy, yeah.
I've never met him, but he had done cool stuff, really laid the groundwork, right? The world was built, the enemy designs, the story, everything was in place, humming along. So I very much came in at the tail end as a workhorse to sort of like, okay, we still have these holes. We need a few more enemies. We need a few more level items, obstacles, things like the secret world wasn't designed yet. Stuff, just little side bits. And so I tried to like, I don't know, no, you know, try to make that a seamless transition. Try to fit with what's there.
I guess what I'd say is like I always find that quite mind-boggling that an artist can take what's already there and kind of make it look like it was just one artist that did everything, even though it has like this cohesive look and there's so many different artists involved. And in the case with Returns, because you came in partway through, it's not like you had full ownership of it, right? You weren't starting with a blank canvas.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't my job to throw out this great idea and then upturn the apple cart or whatever, right? It was my job to assist and to make cool new stuff that fit with everything. I think a lot of the retro at the time worked very smartly with their environment team, where I think they often would sort of make asset packs of sorts, right? Just go make a bunch of stuff. So you would have one artist responsible for a level, but a lot of the pieces would be from a variety of people. So there was like a consistency across, and I'm sure they had, we had style guides and we had things that we were adhering to, but it helped, disparate styles and skills sort of feel cohesive if there was sort of like a little bit of everybody and everything. But I DKCR was awesome, and really, some of my designs, still have hung in there and kind of become canon, and that feels cool, right? Even though
any of your things at the theme park?
Yeah, actually a couple.
Nice.
Which, yeah, again, for someone, I was only coming in doing the last 10-20% of design work, but I had a few in there. Yeah, so weird. Like I remember, when Japan, Disney opened, I was like, oh, go on YouTube and watch some virtual tourism like walkthrough and just sort of like pick it apart and be like, oh, cool, that, and those rock statues, and I think there was I think this might be on my website. One of my jobs was to design Cranky's shop or whatever for the game, right? It's where you could spend your banana coins to get power-ups and stuff. And so Cranky's in there, Squawks is in there, and it's sort of in his little hut. And I redesigned his rocking chair. Like in the old games, he had a rocking chair, but it was kind of just an old basic Quaker kind of thing or whatever. But I was like, well, no, like this should be built out of a barrel or something, right? Like take one of the rings off, cut it in half. You've got a good rocking chair base. The rest of it should be riveted and kind of just look the part. And so I obviously that got passed to a very talented 3D artist. And then now, like I was looking through the amusement park, and I think Cranky's like, I don't know, yelling at people while you're waiting in line for the ride or something like that. And there he is in that new design chair, and Squawks is there with the same perch. And I don't know, it's just a trip. It's really cool.
I know they're doing a DK movie, so there's a high probability that more of your stuff might end up in it.
That would be cool. I don't know where they would go with that. Presumably based off of their version of DK for the Mario movie.
Yeah.
And that side of things. It'd be fun. Yeah, I'd love to see where that goes.
Oh well, time will tell, won't it?
Yeah.
So how does it actually work with the concept art and where you work in tandem with the designers, right? Because are you sitting there, they have an idea, and you're trying to try and create a visual presentation of what they want to do, or are you creating the idea and then they take that and design it? How does it actually work, that collaboration?
It can be a give and take, but more often than not, the designer is coming to you. I mean, the concept artist you are a bridge between design and the art team, working with the art director, of course. And so, an example in DKCR was, the enemy design lead, he would write briefs for me. He'd come over, go through it. I need an enemy that's 2 units tall, 1 unit wide, but then you jump on him and he becomes 1 unit tall and changes his behaviors somehow. Make it work, make it look good, right? And so do a bunch of sketches, throw it around, talk it around, and then it turns into that weird chicken on stilts thing.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Which I think even at the time, like sometimes they'll, this designer liked to name his creations, so it kind of like gave a little thematic nudge, and I think it was called Naked Chicken or something. So I was like, all right, it can lose
Okay,
its
so you kind of
feathers.
have an idea. Well, that's
Yeah,
helpful.
but not always, right? Like it can really be like that screaming statue that's like in the first level and it screams and it falls forward, which is there's a young version and an old version. The old version I think is in the theme park ride. That was for the longest time just a gray rectangle or prism or whatever, and there wasn't any like it was already implemented. We knew we wanted it to be something, but it could have been anything. It could have been a beaver who chewed down a tree and it fell forward or whatever. We decided to make it a character, stone, and give him some goofy scream. And, that was just through sketching and talking to our director, probably.
So how was it with Tropical Freeze then? Because obviously you're there from the start, right?
Yeah, so
you're
that
a
was
lot more heavily involved.
that was my baby, right? Like
Yeah.
that was I'm there from day one, and I'm driving the creative vision of. I mean, everybody's participating. Obviously, no one person makes a game, but there was a small team initially to be like, okay, what are we doing? What's the story? What's the setting? Etc. And so early on I'd pitched, my thought process there was, okay, we've been on DK's island. We know what that looks like. It would be super weird to just change the topography of this all of a sudden, right? Those worlds are those worlds. So we've got to get you off the island somehow. And if you're off the island, we had this idea of an archipelago of islands that you kind of had to hop to get back home. And it's like, okay, so there's probably also in DKCR, there was the enemy within, right? Came out of the volcano and the Tikis were all there. So it's now, okay, let's think about an outside force. And what has been done traditionally, right? With Rare, there was pirates, and there was scientists, and I forget, right, all of them. But so it was like, okay, what hasn't been done for this world? And I think it kind of landed on, well, like Vikings could be an interesting theme, sort of a North threat, and also that we briefly sort of floated out aliens.
Is that the concept art I saw of like a moon level? Was that related to that?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So early on, we kind of gave both of these ideas equal weight, and even at one point, I think sort of divided into two sides where like people were kind of developing both a little bit, just to see what stuck and see what resonated with people more. Early days while you're still allotted the time to explore. And
Are you looking at the pros and cons of doing both in order to try and nail down which theme you're going to choose? Because why ultimately did you go with Vikings over
I don't
aliens?
know who. I mean, eventually you just have to decide, right? And I don't think it was fully democratic. I don't think we all voted, but you could look at the skill set of obviously Retro has done Metroid, so they're good at hard shapes and like they could do spaceship sci-fi stuff. Mechanically, I think it was just a preference thing. Like we had developed more engaging pieces that were working with the other theme. It seemed a little bit more down to earth, right? Like it's Donkey Kong Country. I don't know. I mean, at the time, I think I had drawn like aliens that were kind of like weird little ooze monsters or translucent green things that would kind of seep all the way. But like, it never really got past that. Usually, like a good idea, it's kind of there when you can like plant the seed or just put one little part of it, and then if people start going, oh, and then this, and then this, and this could be this type of animal because they're all northern Vikings, and this could be, and it sort of just builds and starts to become apparent that like, oh, that's the more engaging route.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, I really like the Snowmads anyway.
Yeah, me too.
I
Yeah,
definitely
they were
prefer
fun.
them to the Tikis.
Tikis were cool. Again, I had nothing to do with that, but I think, with his DK's bongo history and
Yeah,
just
yeah. I mean, I
music in
understand it.
general being cool, I get where they landed with that, and also the like tiki island theme sort of thing, maybe
Yeah.
like tiki bar or whatever. But
Well,
yeah,
the other smart thing you guys did, I don't know if you had any involvement in this, but because by the last world you're back on the island, you could reuse art or retexture, I suppose, the art from
yeah. I
DKCR
don't know
because
that
it's
there was a ton of reuse because we had like technology had to change, right? Like
oh
DKCR was
true.
on Wii. they were pushing it already. So,
Yeah, yeah.
we were learning how to make, you know, way more high res assets using normal maps, things that they didn't have to do before. But yeah, that was 100% the idea there. I had two thoughts of like, okay, so we've got this cold theme, right? And people often will complain about the difficulty of like ice themed worlds in platformers, right? They're notorious. And so
Yeah.
it's always a little weird that like, that's level 5 instead of, well, in our game, this is going to be the last level. So even if it's hard, it's kind of where it should be, pacing
Yeah, that makes
wise.
sense. Yeah.
But also, yeah, it's like a homecoming. I think the story and the journey overall just feels good because you're now back to the familiar, and DK's where he wants to be, and it worked out. Like it just sort of all fit once we started mapping it out that way.
I mean, I'll just tell you straight up, like, I think Tropical Freeze is one of the greatest 2D platformers ever. It's just,
Yeah,
it's like everybody at
awesome.
Retro was firing on all cylinders, right? And
For real.
yeah, like it's just you guys took everything from Returns and just upped the ante on everything. And it's just so good. It's crazy good.
Glad to hear.
I'm glad it got a second wind on Switch, right? Because I think it went under the radar.
I know the Wii U kind of fizzled and it didn't get its attention, but I think it did eventually get a lot more. At least I hope Switch sales were good and they
Yeah, well, it sold
reached more
like
people.
I think between both the Wii U and Switch, it's like 6.6 million. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 million people plus have seen your amazing concept art.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you have much involvement at first in regards to what each of the worlds should be, or was
Yeah.
it another case of like a designer having an idea and you trying to work around that?
I feel like again we're all working together here, right? The environment artists were coming on board too once we decided on some initial direction, and they were throwing out concepts too. Like I'm not the only person who can paint in the studio,
Oh, of course, of course.
obviously, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I remember working through that with like the first world. I remember working up something with the art director at the time of like, it's got to be familiar, but because like, okay, new player starting the game should still feel like Donkey Kong Country, so it can't be totally bizarre. But we've done, a jungle before, we've done a beach before. It was like, well, what if it's mangroves? It's kind of both, and we put in this like shipwreck, plane crash, sort of Bermuda Triangle kind of element to it, and now we've got a familiar yet fresh idea. And then from there, I was kind of always sketching around changing palettes, trying to just find the differences. World 2 is like the autumn one, right? We always knew we wanted some rich, vibrant oranges and yellows, and it eventually took I don't know, like a cuckoo clock Swiss sort of theme. And yeah, just kind of moved on from there. I think probably design was certainly involved, right? People were throwing out ideas left and right, and you just run with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see the screen here?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. Because like this is one of my favorite levels, is the juicy jungle one.
Nice. Yeah.
Just in terms of, it's just such a unique concept.
This one evolved a lot. I would say like where we started and where we ended was the biggest jump. Like we, again, like the last world kind of already knew what it was, right? It's going to be repurposing those biomes, but frozen. And then all the other ones we're figuring out. And this one, I think this is World 5. I kind of don't remember
World
the numbers.
5. Yeah.
I was thinking about the other characters we have in the game. And it was, well, we've got this checkpoint pig. Where did he come from? What's his deal? And so I was like, okay, maybe there's a whole town or city of pigs. Can we play with that? Play with pig shapes, and then we've got this invading force. So they've conquered other islands. They've conquered this island, and what are they having them do? And I think the very first painting was actually the one that looks more like Greece up there. So it was quite a big departure, like that one.
Yeah.
It was arid, and it was white stucco and tile, and it was the start of an idea, but it didn't like go beyond that really. And I think it was, I don't know who brought it up. I think it probably could have been designers like messing with water slides or something, and it turned into this juice thing. Like, oh, they're actually going to be harvesting their local resources, and they're going to be coming up with contraptions that juice the fruit and make all this stuff. So it got more and more jungly and more lush, and then I just got to have fun, like drawing little moments in time of, the devices that they would use to cut stuff down, the technology for chopping something in half. Like, Retro's, even the previous game, was really good about like integrating those mechanics thematically. And so like the factory level in the first game, everything stamped and chopped and did, it was very tactile and sort of in world. So that was a fun way to do that.
So how long does it take to do one of these drawings on average?
I don't know. A day to a few, maybe. Well, okay. I mean, sketches are different.
Sketches,
right?
like this would be different to say.
Yeah, this was,
right? Yeah.
Even that one is just in the sketchbook. It was quick. This one was similarly sketch level. Some of the island renders were a little bit more time consuming and thoughtful. It it's weird.
It has a lot
varies.
of detail for like a sketch, like this is pretty detailed.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a
But
concept
it's also super rough, and the perspective is like totally bananas and not really real.
Sure,
again,
but
like yeah. So this was like me. I was just working in a sketchbook at that point. I think half of this is pencil, and then I would scan it in and clean it up a little bit and add a few tones just to help the space read. But yeah, I don't know, quick.
But this type of stuff must be so helpful to a designer, because it helps them to give very much a huge visualization of what they could potentially do on the design front, right? Even if it's like a sketch.
I hope so. Yeah, half the time these were vibe sketches, right? They were just inspiring. Hey, go! This is what it could be. Both the level designers and the level artists can just pull something from that it doesn't have to be specific. Yeah, I think, okay, I kind of remember this too. Like we talked about, I think the second one here was sort of the first sketch for this world, and it was sort of like, what does a drained ocean floor look like? Which then turned into, well, maybe it's just, the swimming got better, so we'll just do an underwater world.
Right.
And playing with that idea in a few different ways. But
because Yeah, I was just going to quickly say, because Manchester, I think, is the one that came up with the idea of like the whole silhouette thing.
Yeah.
So I suppose you were thinking of ideas of how to take it further with Tropical Freeze?
Correct. Yeah, it was like we knew we had to do them, right? They were popular, and they was just fun. It was a nice way to break it up visually and make a mid-level feel quite a bit different with not that much work. And so yeah, it was sort of like silhouette levels 2.0, right? They weren't quite as stark. I played with a lot more mid-ground tones. I think like the forest one, I don't know if I ever.
Let's have a look. Is it on here? Let's have a look.
It's a good question. It's been a while.
But this is what I mean here. But like some of your art, it just fits with the
airplane
Donkey
one.
Kong, stylized art and stuff. Okay, there's
all the way on the right.
Right.
Above. No, up, and right there. Okay, I think probably it would be in there if it was a thing I was allowed to post.
That looks different. Is that? Yeah.
That I don't think is in the game.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm like, was that in the game? I can't remember. It's been a while since I played it, but that was obviously an idea that maybe didn't.
Yeah, there was this like poisonous possum swamp kind of thing that I don't think ended up making the cut.
And obviously that's the frozen level here.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's the moon idea that I saw. Yeah.
I think the moon idea was also not just married to the aliens thing.
Aliens. Oh, okay.
It was also, there were, we knew we had to do the secret level kind of thing again. And there was a little bit of an open question of like, well, what does that mean? Like we could do the alien thing there. We could just shoot you into space. I think we ended up more of the Valhalla kind of the next bit of imagery. Temple, right? I think that's where that ended.
Yeah.
And I'm not actually seeing the forest silhouette piece. I'm not sure where that is, but
it doesn't. I mean, I can see Autumn Heights is here. Where is it? It's here somewhere. And there's a Savannah level.
Yeah.
More.
I mean, so Retro's and Nintendo's policy is kind of like you can post what's in the game. So basically it's not a great thing for concept artists because most of your work is not, going to be in game ever, right? People aren't seeing the design work, they're seeing the final product. But, with the unlock galleries, collectibles, they were able to showcase pieces and the dioramas and stuff like that. And so that's, some of my concepts get in there, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's public. I can post.
Yeah, because I think that's important, right? I mean, if you tell a potential employer, I worked on Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, they're like, cool, show me some concept art.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Not allowed. NDAs.
Right. It's tricky. I mean, you can have private portfolios and stuff too. Obviously, you can work around stuff, but you want to show your work. You want to get recognized for your contributions and just share what you do, right?
I think it's really great with something like Donkey Kong though, because there aren't really any limitations. It's not like it's a realistic type of game, right? So in terms of any ideas, you can pretty much take Donkey Kong anywhere, whether it's an ice world or a moon world or whatever, right?
Yeah, more or less. Obviously continuing the country franchise came with a weight of sorts, right? You wanna be true to the fans. You wanna. I don't know how crazy we could really get, but yeah, no, it's cartoon. It's playful, and fun should always win out. Over sense probably to some degree. So.
Sure.
To help answer
that. Would you reference Rare's work quite a lot?
No, I wouldn't personally, but I played those games as a kid and I loved them. Definitely familiar. I don't know, like reference wouldn't be the word, but it would, it's part of your vocabulary. You know what's there. You know what is essential for a DKC game versus what's open for interpretation. So,
were Japan relatively hands off
for development?
Well, with you specifically, I know they tend to hound the designers and specific characters, like for the character artists and stuff.
Yeah, they have a character team that heavily reviews everything that is having to do with their mascots, which obviously,
of course, makes sense.
You want to control that. It was a mix of stuff. Certain things would get a lot of attention and iteration. I think like boss designs, stuff like that. But like, if it was just a frog that's going into, a jungle level or something, they didn't really, So yeah, I didn't have to interface. Also, like all my work, sort of, if it was pitch work, it was going through the art director or someone else, usually to sort of sell an idea. So I kind of didn't have to interface that much.
What was your involvement with Mario Kart 7? Because that was in between Returns and Tropical Freeze. And that was very much a collaboration between Nintendo in Japan and Retro.
Yeah, that was a cool little detour. Pun intended, I guess. We had wrapped up DKCR, or at least art locked, and weren't ready to fully spin up the next thing. There might have been questions about whether we were even doing another DK at that point. I don't know. So it was a way to keep a nice, happy circumstance of kind of keep the Mario Kart team needed help, and it kept the artists working on cool new things. And I did a bunch of stuff. Actually, I recently learned that I don't think I'm in the credits, which is
that's why I
weird.
asked.
Oh, okay,
yeah, that's why I asked, because I'm sure you worked on Mario Kart
100%. Yeah, like a
but
lot.
I was like, I can't see you in the credits. I don't know what your involvement is, because I would think you would be, because I'm like, why would you work on Returns and then have this gap?
I mean, there's even a lot of asks from that time where both sides design teams were like conversing and asking questions, and there's a picture in there of a bunch of concepts printed out, and they're all my images that I've made for. It's like, I definitely worked on this game. I don't know.
We're confirming it.
I don't know what happened there, which is, I don't know. It's whatever. Like, nobody watches credits, but again, back to the point of you like nice, to be acknowledged for your contributions.
Well, we're all acknowledging you now, so that's
awesome.
That's the important thing. This is
I did course designs. I did course designs. I did kart designs. I did trophy designs. Helped do paint overs for rethemes of things. Some of my favorite pieces are from that. I mean, I guess since I didn't work on them, I could just post them.
Well, yeah, because
art, right?
Would they still be? They'd still be in your portfolio somewhere.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In the vault.
Yeah, in the vault for sure. No, some of them I like quite a lot. I mean, I'm not too precious with my work generally. Like, digital art by its very nature is a little bit not disposable. Like, it's temporary, right? So I like to think of, my next piece will be my best piece, right? I'm building upon my own skills. So sometimes you like old things you've made, and sometimes you can't look at them. Like, it's just kind of the nature of growth and being an artist.
I think that's the case for most creative people.
Right.
I mean, I can't even go back and watch a lot of my old interviews because I'm like, oh no, I just cringe. So I'm sure it'll be like that for your art, right? You go back and be like, oh, nah.
Right.
I've improved so much since then. Yeah. So I totally understand it. But that must have been cool though, because you got to work with Mario.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
that was, second time I get to work on a foundational childhood game, like dream come true, right? Like I played Mario Kart to death and I played DKC to death. And now I get to help shape that world, help build the greater Nintendo canon. It's awesome. Dream come true. So
I remember Brian Walker telling me a story of how Japan and Retro would test the game together. Were you a part of any of those test sessions?
Mm-mm.
No.
They would come out periodically. Are you talking specifically about Mario Kart or just generally?
Yeah, Mario Kart. Yeah. Well, with both, I guess.
I mean, we all played everything all the time. So
Yeah.
sure, like you had a dev kit, you could fire it up, and I don't remember. A lot of that was the level designers. They were constantly iterating and critiquing and changing and just running it through its paces, I guess.
Yeah. I have to ask you about Donkey Kong Bonanza. What you thought of the game, because I think it's important to get your opinion since you're a part of
Sure.
that history.
Full disclaimer, I actually haven't finished it.
You still haven't finished it. Where have you gotten up to?
Working and playing. I'm a little notorious for not finishing games generally.
That's quite common though. With game devs.
But also,
specifically.
right, like I want to try new things. I want to see what's going on, and then putting in the hours is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it has been thoroughly. My son loved it to death, and so it has been thoroughly spoiled for me. I know, the shape of the game.
Okay, all right. That's unfortunate.
A little bit, but he took great joy in spoiling it for me. So at least there was that. DK Bananza is wild. A lot of fun.
Good word to
obviously.
use.
Yeah, I mean it's. I don't think that it's artistically, design-wise. I wonder if we could have gotten away with at Retros, gotten away with the design choices they made, or artistic design choices they made. Like they're.
What do you mean specifically?
Well, the blanking on what they're called, the rock tones or whatever, and everything's a gem and a shape, and then now it's a giraffe and also a rock. Like it all makes sense thematically for like the destruction and what they're going with, but like it's just so out there and in an awesome way, like super cool. But it felt like there was maybe a permission structure there that I couldn't imagine pitching all those like characters to the character team or to the broader,
Well, there's a prototype out there of a Mario Goomba. They experimented with destructible terrain, I think, in like a very, very basic form with like a Mario Goomba, and I think that's what led them down the path.
Sure.
But there is a part of me that does wonder, because there's so much destructible terrain anyway in Returns and Tropical Freeze in some of the levels, where the levels are just breaking apart as you're going through it.
Interesting.
That maybe they took inspiration from you guys.
I can see that. Yeah, and the character designs make sense when you think of it as form following the function, right? They started with destructible terrain as the mechanic that they wanted to center this thing around, and then so you're breaking rocks and you're finding rocks, and so everything is rocks. Sure, we can punch NPCs. I love it, right? It's awesome. Yeah, I don't know where obviously I don't know where the origins of it came from. I'm glad they pursued it though. I can't help but feel like there's, more so than Retro's previous games, like, is there a little bit of a Minecraft like thing here, right? Like it just feels good to dig a hole. Let's be honest, right? Like, and were they pursuing that even as a DK thing? Maybe not. Like as you could destroy, and it became more about destruction and the freedom of that. Probably it was like, well, who's our character that is best suited for this one? The big gorilla, obviously.
That's exactly what they do. I've heard Miyamoto actually say that. They basically come up with the mechanic or a prototype of the mechanic, and then they find the right character that fits that mechanic, right? Because Mario wouldn't really suit that type of mechanic. Right. So Donkey Kong made sense. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's awesome to see him get, top treatment and revisit the 3D open world-ish space for him. I do wonder where it goes from here, if at all. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a one-off versus a new mainline DK series. Like, I mean, I would not bet against that team to like squeeze more juice out of that banana, right? Like, they could almost certainly find more creativity and keep inventing and reinventing it. But from what I'm playing, I don't know if like I don't know where else you go with it, right? Like, or is destruction even the thing to carry it forward?
I think what makes DK Bananza work at the end specifically is because you guys were not given permission to use the Kremlings, right? And Returns and Tropical Freeze.
Sure, yeah.
That makes the payoff that much more. I mean, Kynan mentioned this in the review that we did, right? The payoff is that much grander because there had been this
holding out for so long. I don't remember. I wasn't, part of that. Again, coming in late on DKCR, I wasn't part of that initial like, hey, don't use these. We don't like them or whatever. We don't want to touch that ground again. Obviously, we carried that forward through the next game. I even did a crocodile design once that was like, I have mixed feelings about K. Rool, to be honest. The internet's going to hate me for this, but I don't think he's a very good character design, personally.
Why do you say that? Interesting.
Okay, it's not the character himself, but he feels like, especially like, seeing him in Smash, I feel like his original design is partly due to the limitations of technology at the time, right? They're pre-rendering this early 3D days, and a lot of that has like been held on to too closely. So like, if I look at the modern version of him, again, I haven't seen him in Bananza, but I've seen him in Smash. His teeth are perfect cones. His texture isn't really a crocodile texture. It's just squares. He's got a big cold belly. I mean, I have nostalgia.
So you haven't, okay. So you haven't seen what he looks like in Bananza?
No.
At all? Would you want to?
Sure. Yeah.
I can show you.
Okay.
I can show you if you want to be shown.
I assume
I don't want to ruin it for you if you don't want to.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, that's fine. I'm hoping he got a little bit of a facelift, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think he looks beautiful, personally. Okay. And they did some other stuff with him. Hold on. I'll just share the screen again. So you can see, because I'm curious for your opinion.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. So, like, that's like, and by the way, there's spoilers right now for anyone that hasn't finished the game, but yeah, should have done that first. But so like this, like obviously they've done an overhaul of a lot of things, and then obviously they've done like a more twisted version.
Whoa. What? Okay, so like a transformation.
Yeah.
Mid boss kind of thing. Whoa. Okay, that's wild, but that fits.
So
yeah, I don't know. Still not doing anything for me.
Still not doing it for you.
It's better. It's definitely better. Like,
okay, that's good.
Here's what I want. Here's what we want. I want when the movie comes out. Let's hope. Kind of blanking on their name. The movie studio.
Illumination?
Illumination, thank you. There was you know, a lot of hubbub about how they changed Donkey Kong, and then Donkey Kong's new design went into Mario Kart
Yes.
World, which really was just like, as far as I could tell, softer brow. I mean, some of the proportions, but like he was just sort of like more emotive and had better facial deformation. It's not. It's good though. I mean, it's better than I thought. And of course, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to detach my nostalgia. Obviously, like I love the Kremlings largely in the first games, right? And so there's always a soft spot there, but it always felt like he could evolve, and I never really saw him do it enough to my taste.
Well, I think because people have so much nostalgia, right? Like, I mean, there's still a bit of a divide in terms of DK's new look. And even I'm
sure.
conflicted about it, but I'm like
Well,
wondering, there's a part of me, am I conflicted because I have just so much nostalgia for the original character that I find this new version a bit weird?
well, he's got like three looks now, right? It's like he's got the Mario Kart World look, he's got the Bonanza look, and then he's got the Tropical Freeze look. The fur's different. I wouldn't say that Bonanza and Mario Kart are even that close. I mean, obviously he's big gorilla, he's big fur guy with the tie. Like, he hasn't largely changed, but the proportions, certainly the fur, and that could be a you know, technical limitation on that part. But yeah, I know people are kind of both ways, but I don't know. I think it looks good.
I can understand why Japan is so anal about their characters looking a specific way,
Right.
And why they were so I suppose hounding the character artists at Retro because they've got to look a specific way.
Well,
Because
so what are they
fans,
doing now, right? So are they juggling three versions of this? Like, what is official?
I wouldn't think so.
No, I wouldn't think so either. But like, I would say there's a difference between Mario Kart and Bonanza. So like, is there an official version? Like, what? I don't know. I guess it's per product, and you just sort of roll with it.
Well, yeah, and I suppose in the next Smash they'll use the new version. That's what I would think.
Yeah, that would track.
Yeah, yeah. Out of curiosity, what was the reason you left Retro?
Followed a girl.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's all about
I
love.
went. I went. And I got married, started a family.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. And Retro was quite accommodating. So this was in 2011, I think. I could be a little bit off on that, but pre like remote work as a thing, and definitely not with Nintendo, who's like, that's a security risk. Like, we control our secrets, our message, no outside, whatever. But you know, we're in the middle of DK Tropical Freeze, and I was able to sort of hang in there and like work remotely for a year or so, and just sort of see it through, which was great.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've heard that the culture's really, really good there. Especially like nowadays, like it would probably be one of the safest studios to work for because Nintendo, for the most part, they don't really like to lay people off.
Yeah, they don't do the boom and bust cycle, and that was true then. There was lifers there, and yeah, if I hadn't decided to make that decision, like I'd probably still be there. I don't know. I mean, I know they've moved studios, and the team is quite a bit different than when I was there. To some degree, I'm sure there are a lot of familiar faces too.
I think a lot of the animators and the artists are still there.
Yeah,
And Retro's always had a very killer art team.
correct. Yeah, everybody just top of their game. Like it's really refreshing, right? Like I could design something, and even if I didn't figure out every part of it, I knew that the next person in that chain was going to flesh it out even more and add to it more, and just one up your idea. So, yeah.
Have you seen some of the art for Prime 4? Like, have you seen like a trailer or anything?
I've seen my son play it some. I haven't played it myself yet. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
effectively a Switch 1 game, but it's like, it looks
Yeah, I mean, I guess
way better
I've
than
only seen the
what it,
Switch 2 version, so I don't know. I don't have a comparison, right?
but it was built with the Switch 1 in mind, right? So a lot of the art would have been conceived around the limitations of that.
right,
So obviously they've up-rested a lot for Switch 2, but
right.
it's still crazy what retro's artists can achieve, right? It's like almost like stylized realism in that case. Obviously with
Yeah,
Donkey Kong's-
Nintendo broadly has just always been really good about that, right? It's art forward, it's not technology forward, and you can still, you end up with this timeless games. Obviously the pixel games from Super Nintendo, Zelda still holds up, Wind Waker still holds up. I mean, it needed a little refresh, right? Like, I'd say artistically, I think Mario 3D World is maybe my favorite, and that still looks great. It's never been about pushing realism and shaders and all the rest of it. It's like, let's make it. Yeah, I mean, it's stylized realism. I guess that's right.
But even with Tropical Freeze, right, that game will be timeless.
I hope so.
Timeless art. Well, I can't see it ever aging because it has a timeless art style.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, its design is phenomenal. David Wise's soundtrack, obviously phenomenal.
100%.
As I said, it's just all the pieces coming together perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see another one. We'll see.
Well, yeah. Do you think it'll happen though? That's what I was going to ask you. I was like, do you think it will happen? Because obviously retro is very different now. I don't think it'll happen personally, but
I mean, eventually, right? I mean, there's still, if Tropical Freeze is sold as well as you've told me, like, there's meat on those bones. And there's a space for a more hardcore platformer, probably, right? Or 2D, 2.5D platformer. You're not getting that with the Mario Brothers World or New Super Mario Brothers. I don't know the naming schemes of their 2D ones. Whether or not retro, I mean, retro would be the obvious fit for it. And I know there was I don't know. I know there's some mixed feelings about the Metroid game. I think that project obviously came with a lot of baggage. So, I don't know where that's at.
There's been interviews that have basically detailed it. I make the comparison to, like, how you have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then there's the Hobbit trilogy, right? And Peter Jackson didn't get enough time to prep the Hobbit trilogy, right? He had 7 years of pre-production with Lord of the Rings, and then with the Hobbit trilogy, he was basically laying the track directly in front of the train. And from what it sounds like to me, is that's kind of how it was with Prime 4. They got dealt a lot of baggage and just production issues. So I would personally like
I wonder if just expectations are changed.
Probably.
Right?
It was 18 years in the making too. So
well, yeah. You can't please anybody with that baggage, yeah.
Yeah. And, it got announced in 2017, then it got cancelled, and then it was given to retro. It was just a mess. So, yeah. I would personally think they'd probably be like, no, we want to do it from the start, do it, and then maybe go on to something else.
And now they're up and running to do that. So,
yeah.
If there's a will there, they're a good fit to just roll into another one and learn from, whatever they've done before.
Here's a question. I know we're going over time. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
If, and obviously we have no idea, this is a totally hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
If they were to do another DK, and they asked you to do some contract work as a concept artist, would you do it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, if time was available, yeah, all day long. No, I miss all of that, and it was a joy. So,
yeah, well, it's good to know. Good stuff. Well, hey, I will wrap up there because I know we're going a bit over time. Thank you so much for taking time out and doing this. If people want to stay up to date with what you are doing, what's the best way for them to do that?
That's a very good question. I am notoriously
under
not
the
on the
radar.
internet much these days. Yeah, I have no social media. I have a website. It needs desperately to be updated. It's on the docket. I'm working with Tomorrow Corporation these days. We have a new thing cooking that I don't know that I can talk about much, but this year I think we will be talking about it some, and so follow that and see what comes.
I love World of Goo.
Yeah.
Such an awesome game. Cool concept, just cool art as well.
There's an awesome sequel now, so
yeah, there is. It's cool. Well, hey, I hope one day they include you in the credits for Mario Kart 7.
Sure.
If I can speak to anybody about making that happen, I will. But this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
And wish you all the best for the future. And maybe one day I'll see you again on another Donkey Kong.
Yeah, love to
because
do it.
I think it's just a match made in heaven.
All right,
Cool.
thanks, Reese.
All right, that is the show, everyone. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe.